Hello and welcome to our webinar, Output Management Trends and Challenges in 2016. My name is Sal Del Conte, and I'm the Global Director of Support and Services for Software Engineering of America. In today's webinar, we're going to touch on the trends and output management challenges that we've observed in our customers and in the general IT marketplace. We'll discuss why SEA is best positioned as the vendor to address the challenges that you're facing. We'll dive into the product a bit and show you an overview of the architecture and some of the details around the screens and the APIs that are available. We'll talk very specifically and especially about the conversion approach, so critical when you're thinking about moving from an output management product that you have today to something new. And then finally, we'll wrap up with questions if we have time, and discussion around next steps. So let's dive into the discussion here. We have, of course, a number of things changing as time goes by here in the IT market, and so many complex and challenging aspects. With regards to output management, well, most importantly, as always, it's cost containment. And we know that's number one, and we know that's, so to speak, the price of admission, if you will, to achieving the goals that these challenges present. But I think priority 1A, an equal aspect in terms of priority, is the features and functions that really today's needs demand in order to address the challenges, in order to provide the service that customers, internal and external, are expecting. And some of those that we face today include, of course, a web access, web capability, and it should be more than just a web access, but it should be intuitive and flexible. Beyond that, we've got to be able to address the requirements for mobile access, tablets, smartphones, those types of now devices that the customers are used to using in their everyday lives, and it's got to be able to easily adapt to those and be part of the normal way that folks access the information. In order to do that, you've got to have a database that's flexible and capable for the archival and retrieval of the large amounts of data that reports and information content require. The database, we feel, should reside on the mainframe for a number of reasons, primarily security, management, and control, so that you have that comfort level from an IT perspective. But then that database has to be open, and it has to be accessible by all of the applications and the end user web requirements and device requirements that are necessary. So to address that, it's got to have a set of APIs that open that data up to the accessibility of all these various aspects, so that the applications, that the actual report product itself can get to that data, both the online and the many volumes of archived data, make it available in new and different ways, so that with applications now using the APIs, you can actually mine that data and get much more information than ever before. To address those challenges, then, vendors need to be able to provide a proven data layer. I talked about the very least a secure and manageable data layer on the mainframe side, and that data layer has to be opened up with APIs and an intelligent, flexible web interface. Assuming that that's interesting to you, and that it seems interesting to move from what you have to a new output management product, they need to show you how a conversion can be done, can be delivered quickly and with a high level of automation, low risk, and high quality. And certainly vendors need to earn their maintenance fees. Likely, the products that you have now, you're paying too much for, and the vendor's not likely providing the enhancements and keeping the product relevant so that it meets the challenges that we're discussing today. So how does SEA help? Where is SEA positioned in all this? Well, SEA, we're more than 34 years now. We've been providing wonderful value products to our customers. Over 1,000 ZOS customers over the last 34 plus years. We do that with a focus from the customer's perspective. We like to say that we are customer driven in terms of the products that we develop and the enhancements that we make to our products. Fundamentally, we ensure that we have the best expertise. We know that that's necessary so that we can lead the way, so that we have the ability to help our customers understand the best approach for output management, where and how best practices come into play. And of course, if we're going to talk about moving from an existing product to a new one, leading the way with intelligent understanding of the implications and the before and after situations. We are also extremely proud of our ongoing support, which is always a live person, 24/7/365. Now, focused specifically around our output management practice, well, like I discussed above, we're committed to product relevance. We're committed to continued investment to ensure that, indeed, we can provide products and services that help our customers attack and maintain the capabilities and the challenges that they have in today's market. We do it by providing the highest level of expertise and a proven methodology for converting to the new approach. Essentially, when we looked at how we would approach the challenges that the market's presenting, we said, well, the products and the solution has to have these capabilities. It has to be an intelligent and highly flexible web user interface. We need to be able to use, as I mentioned, the mainframe for a data layer for the reasons of security and maintenance and control. And we need to have the open capability that JSON RESTful APIs provide to unlock their data and ensure that you're able to get to that data in ways that are new and ways that the current challenges demand. From an illustrative perspective, our Trim 7.0 product architecture is a three-tier layered approach that on the highest end user layer is broken into the web and then the green screen approach. Now, if you're interested, you still use a green screen approach, and some of our customers still do. We have that available, and we'll continue to maintain that for our customers that need that approach. But today's discussion really is more focused on going forward, the new approach around the web and the mobile device requirements to access the data, and then, of course, the APIs that unlock that data via the JSON RESTful approach, and having the ability to embed those APIs in various and all types of applications via the other enterprise applications and non-mainframe platforms, mobile applications, whatever it might be, so that they can get to the data and present it in whatever means that is necessary for the end user. The second tier, the server tier, was where we have our SEA web server, or it could also be an HTTP, IBM HTTP server, depending on what your desires are. Works either way. That web server then interfaces with the SEA data server to access the third tier, the data tier, which is the database itself, the online database and the archive database, and goes back through, presents the requested information to the end user as was requested. The database itself is a self-optimizing database with a dynamic space reuse capability. It has automated archive, purge, and processes capability, automated data compression to ensure most effective use of the space, of course. You can define retention for reports in the database at the report level by days or cycles or what have you. There's a number of different ways to define that, of course. And there's only ever one physical copy of the report in the database. So if you have someone, or excuse me, a report that's produced 20 copies for various distributions, you may have one person getting the first 3 pages, another person gets the full report, another person gets the last 4 pages, sliced and diced in so many different ways, but there's only ever one physical copy of the report in the database to optimize space retention. And I also thought I'd mention, just touch on our approach towards development, because I think it is pertinent, and it allows you to consider another aspect of the vendor that you're partnering with. Our approach is an agile development approach, and yeah, we have scrums and the other aspects of agility that you're familiar with in terms of agile development, but that's details that you and your end users don't have to necessarily know. What's important to know is that agile development approach enables us to quickly develop enhancements, to get them tested, and get them out to the field in a much quicker manner and with a higher level of quality than traditional waterfall approach for development. So we're committed to that, and it's how we do our development, and it works out to be the best solution for our customers. One of the things that we consider to be absolutely imperative for this latest release of TRIMS was some of the points I have listed here. We wanted to make sure that for the end users that we had a total responsive web design that enabled them to have the best online viewing experience, and that was a given and absolutely critical. And it also relates to the fact that it's a RESTful automated screen adjustment, so that you have for the mobile devices of all different sizes and types, with no changes to the application, the screen will automatically adjust based on the type of device being used to access the data. And of course, you have the APIs, as I mentioned before, that opens up the data and enables the access of the data, not just from the TRIMS web or application itself, but from other programs that you might have written, other applications throughout your enterprise, and gives you access to the data in many and new different ways. So let's actually look at what the web UI looks like, and we'll also see some samples of the API itself as well. This first screen here on the left is your log on screen, where you would enter your user ID and password. TRIMS web UI, by the way, is fully compatible with all the external security products like RACF, ACF2, Top Secret. But if you choose not to use an external security, there's also TRIMS has a full internal security capability to ensure that only authorized folks can view the reports that they're allowed to see. Once they log into the TRIMS viewer, they're presented with a screen for accessing the list of reports that they're authorized to view. Now, one word here about what the actual view is for the end user when they log into TRIMS. First time in, of course, it'll be a little bit of a different experience than subsequent log-ons. First time in, there's a lot more information being presented, so they can tailor their screen, tailor their experience, and create like a dashboard that's comfortable for them in future sessions. So that when, for example, they log on, they go right to a list of the reports that they're allowed to see, reports that are maybe the current reports that are authorized for their viewing, and not even have to do a selection of which reports they want to see. But the first time in, they're presented with the list of how to select or filter the list of reports that they are allowed to see. So this filtering is you see here are all the types of fields, the parameters with which they can use to filter the list of reports that they are authorized to see. And they can choose any and all of these to include in their filter. Once they do that, let's say, for example, they choose the report name and the group ID as to be part of the filter. And when they do that, then they would fill in the values that they want to use to filter for those two fields. And when they hit enter then, or click, excuse me, they'll be presented with the list of distributions reports that meet the filter criteria and that they are allowed to view. So here's an example of that list, possibly. When they select one of these items, one of these from the list, then they are put into the content of the report. So here you see the actual content of a report with buttons at the top and to enable them to do various navigation. If they want to print the report, make it a PDF, export it as a text file. There's a number of capabilities and features and functions for navigation that aren't even shown here as well. On the left, you see if it's an indexed report, then you'll see a table of contents for the indices that are added or selected for this report. And if you were to choose or select one of these index entries, the content would jump right to that spot in the report itself, and you'd be viewing the report at the point where that index starts. So there's lots of capabilities and navigation aids for the end user as they're reading the report. They can do, of course, searches, finds, and things like that for report content and fields, what have you. There's quite a lot of capability and functionality and flexibility in the web user interface. Another example, there are quite many of them, of course, but one that I thought would be interesting to show as well is what we call the windowing capability. The windowing capability allows the user to, for example, lock certain rows or columns so they don't scroll when everything else scrolls. It's a nice feature for ease of use, ease of readability, productivity. So, for example, you may want to lock a heading and then everything would scroll under that heading as they page down the report for ease of reading. Likewise, they might want to hide or prevent certain columns or rows from being seen so that it's just easier for them to see and work with only the portions of the report that they'd like to work. They have the ability to, when they create a window, they have the ability to name it and save it and store it so that they don't have to recreate that window when they want to do the same thing again in the next month's report. So they can always go back and review and view the previously saved windowing definition. Okay? As well, other aspects of the Windows, of the web UI for once you've defined filters or once you've done certain navigation, you have a history. You can go back to previous searches, previous screens that you've looked at, so you don't have to redo, remember what you did, etc. You can go back and have the ability to easily review what you've done before. Filters, for example, you can name them and save any number of them. My Monday reports, for example, whatever you want to call it. Just then with a click of a button, it'll go back and apply that filter, and you'll see the list immediately of what that means to you. Right? So it's a nice navigable, flexible web interface. And then, as I mentioned before, you have the adaptive viewing with no change to the application, regardless of the device on which you're viewing the reports and the information. The screens automatically resize and change so that depending on the device, you'll see things on a screen size and adapted so that you can use the screen in a way that the device enables it, right? So the smartphone or tablet or what have you. Okay. So now let's talk about these APIs I've been discussing and what that means to you as a customer and to the enterprise. As I mentioned, the APIs open the data layer. So it'll from certainly our web interface uses the APIs that we've defined to get through to the data layer on the mainframe and present that data then out to the web. And likewise, those same APIs and others are available in a library of APIs that we provide, so that within an application of your choosing, you could code the APIs and get to the data, get to, for example, a list of reports or get to data report content and do with it as you need within the application. The APIs themselves work within any of these languages and others. We know a number of customers today are starting to code Java batch on the mainframe, for example, and the APIs are certainly capable of being coded and embedded in those Java batch applications to open up the data layer to do whatever. The pieces that you're able to do include filtering, as I showed you in the web application. Applying a filter to a particular list of reports or the reports in the database, creating a particular view, and then also the content of a distribution or a report itself. An example of an API here is the first one here. Let's apply a problem and see how we address it here. So the problem is that from within an application, I need to get a list of all distributions starting with the letter A. Well, this set of lines right here is the entire API. All of the APIs kind of start out the same with initiating the API session, your company name as far as an identification purpose, and certainly a user ID and password for authentication and authorization to get to the database. The filter itself, I want to get all reports that begin with the letter A. A and the percent sign is a wildcard character, so it's the same. Everything that begins with the letter A and anything following that. When I get the list, please put the list into this file, and then log out or close the session. So that's the API. It's as simple as that. And the result that would end up in that file, and by the way, I've made this look pretty just for viewing purposes, but in reality, what it would be is a list, a row or a list, of rows of report names, and then for each of those reports, the metadata that you see here, for example, about, for example, this first one, the cycle number, the recipient name, and et cetera, right? All these items that are metadata about each of the reports, and then any of that data, the application can then do whatever it chooses to do with those data items, whatever it might be. Okay? Another example of the API problem being from within an application, I need to read or browse a specific distribution, a specific report. So once again, we have the API, the identification and logon authorization. This one I want to actually see the report name is sales report, and I specifically want cycle number 1001. When you get that report, please put it into this output file, and then let's terminate my API session. Once I have it then, it actually is going to give me the report content. So now imagine this: you can go back into your archives. You can go to currently available reports online, whatever they are. You can get that data, pull it in, and then start parsing it, getting into it, getting data items and pieces of information that really had been locked away in your report database, and whether it be archives or online, that heretofore was really pretty much unavailable except for by the output management product. And now you can get to it from virtually any application. And that presents a tremendous amount of opportunity for additional data that was available to the enterprise now that was never there before. That's very, very powerful, and really what today's customers and IT organizations need to have in order to meet the competitive requirements in the IT marketplace. Okay, so now we've shown the capabilities of TRIMS and why it's so important and how it meets the challenges that we're facing today in the marketplace. But you say to yourself, okay, Sal, maybe I'd like to get to this new product, but I've got this current product. How in the world can I get from what I have to your product when I have virtually every end user in my organization using the current product? And it's, in my mind anyway, no small task to do it. And we understand that. We certainly realize the complexity and the challenge that a migration or conversion to a new output management product presents. We've done it for many, many times, and consequently, given the expertise that we have, I mentioned the quality of the consulting and technical talent and development talent that we have, along with the fact that we've done it a number of times, that we have an automated approach and a methodology that works. We understand what it takes to convert from where you are to the TRIMS product and where you want to be. And we know that that requires a planned approach and as automated an approach as possible. So we have that. We have automation that takes your report, your distribution and definition and report definition database and converts it over automatically to the TRIMS version of that database. We have automation that also will go in and take and pull down your old archive reports, reprocess them, and put them out as the TRIMS archive, all in an automated fashion. When we do move it to the TRIMS archive, we keep the date and time, original date and time that the report was archived. So if a report is on your archive or has been there for 7 years, when it gets to the TRIMS archive, it will be stamped as having been archived for 7 years, so you don't lose that, and etc. There's a tremendous amount of planning and automation that ensures that you have a high quality result and a low risk conversion. Another piece that's absolutely critically important is the transfer of knowledge for both the administrators who are going to be administering TRIMS as opposed to your existing product, and then also, of course, for your end users who need to understand the new web user interface, for example, that they'll be working with, how to get to and see the reports and navigate. That we present that all in online web type training sessions and or videos and or printed report or viewable Word documents, text files, and however it is that your users and the administrators are most comfortable learning. As I mentioned, the project itself is mapped out. We use project planning approach with all tasks outlined, and timeframes determined so that we stick to those timeframes. We have an approach, as I said, that's automated, and we go through step by step with the the SEA team and the customer team. We have regular weekly status discussions to make sure that we stay on target from a time and results perspective. We understand, we ensure, excuse me, that both teams understand responsibilities and what's expected to be accomplished, and who's going to do each of the tasks, and the estimated time it should take for that resource. And this is an example of, I'll call this a text version of the graphic on the timeline of the project map. This is really listing the tasks and the anticipated target week that they would be completed, and the responsibility for having those tasks completed. We do it in a way that provides for a proof of concept or a trial up front, so that trims can be installed and tested effectively, that you can be comfortable that everything is functioning. We test out some of the conversion pieces for you to show you how that's easy and straightforward and high quality that's done, ensuring that everything is that you're comfortable and confident in everything. Once that's agreed upon and looks good, then we just leverage what we've done so far and move it right forward into a full deployment, completing all the conversion of your legacy archive reports and all of your recipients, and of course completing the training aspects, and then allowing you to do the cutover when you're comfortable with that deployment time. Okay? Well, with that, that's the overview of the bulk of the webinar in terms of discussion around what it is and how it works and how we get you converted over. We do have a little bit of time here. I will check and see if we have any questions, which it looks like we do have a couple. I'll go through what I can here, and then if you have any additional questions, please contact us, and we'll be glad to get back to you. So the first question we have is, can you give more detail on how the conversion is done? Yes, absolutely. I'll go back to this slide right back here and maybe talk a little bit more about how the steps that go on. The conversion, as I mentioned, is in my mind anyway, we kind of look at it as three pieces to the conversion. One is the first piece is your report data definition and report definition database. What that is the portion of your current output management system that defines, what are the reports, how many copies does somebody get, do they get 3 pages, do they get the whole report, all that kind of stuff, right? Or what are they allowed to see, what are they not allowed to see on, right? So that's all in the report recipient distribution definition database. That database, we have really 100% automated conversion, and it pulls in your existing database, converts it over to the TRIMS version of that database. That typically takes a few days at the most, okay? And really, when that's done, you're in a position to begin accumulating new reports into TRIMS. So from that point, you could go forward and begin accumulating and viewing your reports in TRIMS that quickly. Now, what's left from that point is the conversion of all of your legacy reports. So the archives of maybe millions of reports that might be there from years and years gone by, right? Who knows how many? A lot of customers use this opportunity to eliminate a lot of obsolete stuff that's just no longer needed, to pare down the number of or the period of time that reports really need to be retained and things like that. But all that being said, there's still quite a bit of stuff that has to truly move over. And what we have there is another piece of automation that will take and pulls your archives down, re-archives to TRIMS based on keeping your original archive date and time, and moves everything over to the TRIMS archives. And also, by the way, making it accessible in the TRIMS archive by all the APIs and things that I talked about before. The third piece of the migration process, conversion process, is the knowledge transfer, and that, as I mentioned, is done in a number of different ways. We have administrator training that occurs in both a tutorial fashion, online web-based training, face-to-face training as we go through and work with our technicians and consultants, go through and work with the administrators to show them how to install the product and get it customized and configured. So there's a lot of learning by osmosis as well by the administrator, but then certainly there is formal web-based and video and other types of media type training that they can take advantage of as well. From the end user perspective, we then go through and based on what is needed by any given customer, we'll tailor the end user training so that they see what you want them to see, what they need to see to do their job, right, as they have been doing. And there'll be, again, it could be web-based training, could be videos that they access, could be printed information, PowerPoint type things, a number of different approaches that make it easy for them to get comfortable with the new product. Okay. All right, one more question here. Looks like we have time for, and the question is, your database is on the mainframe, but could we store non-mainframe reports like PDFs, spreadsheets, images, Word documents in there and get to them? Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. Now, you can store all that in the mainframe TRIMS database. However, of course, from a green screen perspective, if you're using the 3270 type green screen access, you're not going to be able to view those types of data in formats in the green screen. That's a given. Report, normal text report stuff, of course, yes. But however, the web access and the other applications that may have contributed content like images and spreadsheets and PDFs, etc., to that mainframe database will certainly be able to pull it out and view it or work with it as they need to. So yes, it can be contributed to the mainframe database for its security and manageability and control, but then be able to be accessible by the APIs and by other applications that need to for actual use of the data and transfer the data to the end users. Okay. So with that, again, I thank you very much for your time and attention. And if you need any additional information, please feel free to contact us. I'd be happy to help. Thank you for your time.